If you've stumbled across this video or this channel, then the likelihood is you're questioning your relationship with alcohol. So welcome, because you're exactly where I was 3.5 years ago. In fact, I had a sober, curious period that lasted about 10 years where I was reading Quit Lit, I was questioning my relationship with alcohol, I was asking my friends if they thought I had a problem for nearly 10 years. And then it was that final push. I'd had enough. I was feeling poorly. My skin had broken out with rosacea. I had IBS. I was starting to gain weight and couldn't stop. Back then, I was really struggling and I wasn't really talking to anybody about it. I might ask the odd friend how much they drank just to sense check and to social proof to see if I had a problem. But the truth was, I knew I had a problem. I had this inner voice, this inner knowing that I needed to do something about my relationship with alcohol. And yet I still didn't. I kept putting it off. And that's because removing alcohol from our lives is a really scary prospect. I'm now 3.5 years alcohol free, and you'll see from my before and after pictures, there are so many external visual changes, but there are also so many internal ones too. It's boosted my confidence. I've got more clarity. I've got more time, more energy, but I've also been where you are, where it's a really scary prospect and we can't quite imagine what life without alcohol is going to look like because we're just not used to it. We are in a culture that's saturated with drinking. So how did I drink? Let's talk about that. How much did I drink? Because that's the first question most people will want to know. Well, I drank more than most and less than some. So I drank about, on average, a bottle of wine a night. And sometimes I'd take nights off. Sometimes I'd have sober stints or attempt to control it. But most of the time I was drinking pretty much every night. It was my off switch. It was the way to switch off my energy, my overthinking, my brain. It was the way I fell asleep, or so I thought. So actually, when I thought about going sober, I didn't quite know what my evenings were going to look like. I didn't know what my weekends were going to look like. And I dreaded the idea of a holiday, a weekend break. In fact, we'd just bought as a couple a motorhome. And in fact, that was one of the things that led me to really challenge my own drinking. Because I don't know if anybody holidays like that that's watching this, but it's a constant party atmosphere. You're always walking around, socializing with people. You park up, particularly in this country, if the weather's bad, you find the local pub. And so we'd got really used to just revolving everything on a motorhome break around where we were going to drink. We'd say it was where we were going to eat, but the truth of it was, by the time we were setting up, we were opening our first drink. And because we were going away more, we were drinking more. And for me, that meant that I couldn't ignore some of those niggly internal signs that my drinking was becoming a problem. I had other signs. I had an aching in my mid-back, my kidney area. I was also feeling very sluggish, very lethargic, and let's not forget those 3 a.m. wake-ups where I was berating myself every morning because I was waking up with anxiety, my heart was racing. So despite helping people in clinic with anxiety, I was then doing things that wasn't supporting my own. My overthinking was off the scale. I used to think that alcohol helped with overthinking, but it really doesn't. Actually, it ramps it up, and it ramps it up in a negative way. So that was another sign for me that I needed to do something about it. And so I used all of the tools that I use with people in clinic for habit change on myself. So I used CBT tools, thought distancing, thought challenging. I used metacognition. I also used hypnotherapy to support me. And if you're interested in any of those subjects, you're in the right place because I'm going to share lots of tips to support you in your sober curiosity, whether you're already sober or in that stage where you'd like to take those first steps and don't quite know what they look like. It's really understandable to be worried. It's really understandable to be nervous about it because it will have been, if it's anything like my drinking, a big part of your socializing, a big part of your relaxing, and a big part of your personality as well. And so it does require deepening some other areas, finding out who you are, finding better coping strategies. And that's what I want to support you with on here. So subscribe for updates, and I look forward to seeing you again.